We begin today the Gemara on the last line on Daf Chav Ches Amud Beis. The Gemara here brings what it said in the Mishnah, here towards the bottom of the Yamod, regarding a person that had an Aveda that he found that he couldn't keep, he couldn't take care of, because it's an animal that just eats and eats and eats and it doesn't work. So then when it comes to return it to the owner, you're not going to have what to return. You're going to just charge him for all the food that you fed the animal, and there'll be nothing left for him to, any value for him. So therefore the Mishnah said, you sell the animal and you have the money. And the money is sitting, you'll be able to return that. Then the Mishnah brought a machlokes regarding this money. Ma yehei b'domim. What do you do with this money? Rab Tarfon says, Yishtamish, you're allowed to use this money while it's in your possession. And then the Mishnah continued and says, Lefichach, because you're allowed to use this money, im avdu chayav b'achri yusan. If it gets lost, it's going to be your responsibility. Then the Mishnah continued, Rabbi Kiva says, Lo yishtamish ben, this money that you're keeping, this Aveda, you're not allowed to use it. Lefichach im avdu ein chayav b'achri yusan. So therefore, if it gets lost, it's not going to be your responsibility. That's the Mishnah. Okay, so the Gemara is going to explain this machlokes. The Gemara will first explain the achrayus, the responsibility that the Mishnah is talking about. What is this referring to? So first the Gemara says like this, At kan le pligi. When is there a machlokes here between Rabbi Kiva and Rab Tarfon regarding this money? Next page, Elo kishenishtamish behen. If he's using this money. So now the person is using this money, so the question is he allowed to use the money and then he'll be responsible for an Aveda if it gets lost, or will he not be responsible? So at this point the Gemara understands that we're speaking about whether he's responsible for an Aveda, this money that got lost. But now, if he's not using this money, im avdu, if this money that he's keeping, the Aveda, to return if it got lost, pater. He'll be pater for the fact that he got lost. The only reason Rab Kiva and Rab Tarfon argue is when you're using it, and then the money got lost. Then the question is if it's your responsibility or not. But if you're not using it, then you're not going to be responsible. So the Gemara asks on this, if so, leimet, to have it, to yufta de Rav Yosef. If so, what it says there in our Mishnah would refute Rav Yosef's opinion. Because there's a machlokes between Rav Yosef and Rabbe regarding the status of an Aveda that a person is keeping and he's guarding for the owner. What status of a shomer does he have? The itmer, as we learned this machlokes, we learned it in Bava Metzia, shomer Aveda. Person that's keeping an Aveda, Rabbi says his responsibility is like a shem mechinam. He's not getting paid for this. He's doing a mitzvah and he's not getting paid, so he only is responsible like a shem mechinam, which is for negligence, pshia. But if it gets lost or it gets stolen, it's not his responsibility. Rav Yosef says, no, kishem mesachar. He has a responsibility on the level of a shem mesachar that gets paid for keeping it. The reason is because he's doing a mitzvah, and the halacha is isik b'mitzvah patam in a mitzvah. So while he's tending to this Aveda, he's not going to have to go and do other mitzvahs, which would include also to feed a poor person bread, take care of someone else, and therefore he's gaining the fact that he doesn't have to spend money on another mitzvah because he's busy with this mitzvah. So therefore he is gaining something by this mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda. So therefore he'll be chayiv on Geneva Aveda as well. So the question is, from what it says in our Mishnah, it seems that if you're keeping the Aveda in your possession and you're not using it, you're pater. So the Gemara answers, Amalach Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef explains that the achrayus that the Mishnah was talking about regarding this Aveda is not regarding Gneva and Aveda. It's talking about whether you're responsible for an einus, for something that's much more than just like Gneva and Aveda, something that's out of your control. So Rav Yosef says like this, regarding a person that keeps the Aveda in his possession, even if he's not using it, so like Rav Yosef's opinion, you'll be responsible not only for negligence, but you're responsible like a Shem Esachar for Gneva and Aveda as well. The argument here between Rabbi Kiva and Rab Tarfon is whether you're allowed to use this money and then you'll be responsible for even an einus that happens to it, like a person that borrows something. When you're a shoya, when you borrow something to use it, so then you're not responsible only for Gneva Aveda, you're even responsible for an einus, something that's out of your control. So the question is over here, if you're being allowed to use this money, so then you would be responsible even for an einus as well. The Gemara uses the expression of a shoyel, even though this is not exactly accurate l'chayre for this case, because we're talking about him using the money, and then when he returns the money to the owner, he doesn't have to give him back the same exact money. Gives back other money, just like a loiva, a person that borrows money, not really shoyel. Taisa says here the Gemara uses this expression of shoyl because the halacha of paying for an einis is usually used regarding a shoyl, so it uses this expression. So the Gemara explains. Rav Tarfon Savar, Rav Tarfon's opinion is Shorele Rabbanan l'shtamushe begavayu. The Rabbanan allowed this Shemer Aveda to use this money that he's keeping for the owner. So v'havele shoyl alayu. So his status is like a shoyl, and he's going to be responsible for an einis. The Rabbanan don't allow you to use this money. You're keeping it for the owner. You're not allowed to touch it. So you're not borrowing it. You're just keeping it for him. So you're chayiv in gneva v'aveda like a shemes sacha according to Rav Yosef. But as a shoyl, which would be mechayiv you and oimtzin, that you potter. That's the pshat of the Mishnah according to Rav Yosef. But the Gemara asks on this. If so, if this is the pshat in our Mishnah, so lefichach the Amar Rav Akiva lamali. The whole arichis of Rav Akiva explaining his opinion seems to be extra. What was the lashon of the Mishnah? The Mishnah says Rav Akiva oimer lo yishtamish ben. Rav Akiva says you can't use this money, and then Rav Akiva adds lefichach because he can't use this money im avdu. If it gets lost, ein chayav b'char yusan, he's not going to be responsible for it. So the Gemara is going to ask over here, if all Rabbi Akiva is trying to say is that he's not going to be responsible for an einis, it's self-understood. Why does he have to say this whole arichas of lefichach? If you can't use it, you're obviously not on the level of a shoyl. There's no reason to think you would be responsible even for an einis, for this shemer aveda. You're keeping this aveda in your possession. Why would I think you're chayiv even for an einis? So what is the reason why the Mishnah has to be ma'irich to say this lefichach? And the Gemara explains like this. The question now on this pshat is like this. Lefichach, the Amar Rabbi Akiva lamali, the whole continuation of Rabbi Akiva is saying lefichach. Why did the Mishnah have to say this? Now, if we would say the pshat that we wanted to say in the beginning, that the argument between Rabbi Akiva and Rav Tarfon regarding this person that's using this aveda, so they're arguing over here regarding whether you chayiv and geneva v'aveda. So this is what the Mishnah means to say. Then the Mishnah is saying very clear, Rabbi Akiva says, Lo yishtamish ben, that you can't use this money. And lefichach, because you can't use it, im avdu, if it gets lost, ein chayav b'char yusan. You're not going to be chayav, you're not responsible for it getting lost. And that's a chiddush. Rabbi Akiva has to add that you're not responsible for a loss of this object that you're keeping as an aveda. What's the chiddush? Because sol kedai techamina, I would think to say that Shemes Sacha Avek Rav Yosef, that maybe even though you can't use it, but you're a Shemer Aveda, and maybe your level of Shmira is on the level of a Shemes Sachar, like Rav Yosef, will be Gneva Aveda Mechayiv, and you should be Chayiv even for a Gneva and Aveda. So Kamash Malan, therefore Rabbi Akiva has to say that you can't use it, and then now that you can't use it, Lefichach, and therefore that you can't use it, so you're just a Shemer Chinam. Like the opinion of Rabbi. So you put from Gneva v'Aveda. So there's a reason for him to add that line, Lefichach, to tell you that you're not chayav for Gneva v'Aveda. It wouldn't be self-understood. But now that you're saying that the pshat in the Mishnah is, Lo yishtamish ben shemes sacha lo have, v'lo mechayav b'Gneva v'Aveda. But now that you're saying that if he's keeping the Aveda in his possession, he's not a shemes sacha, he's not responsible for Gneva v'Aveda. So this is... This is a continuation from the Gemara before. Let me just read that again. Kamash malan lefichach. So therefore, the Mishnah is teaching me the lefichach. Hashte comes not to tell you the amrit lo yishtamish ben. Now that you said you're not allowed to use it, what's the lefichach then adding and teaching you that shomer sachar lo yave, that he's not a shomer sachar v'lo mechayev b'gneva v'aveda, and he will not be responsible with the gneva v'aveda. That's the chiddush of the Mishnah. Okay, as I explained before. But if you're going to say the pshat in the Mishnah, like Rav Yosef wanted to say here, that regarding Gneva v'Aveda, there's no argument. Everybody holds that you're chayiv for that. A Shemer Aveda has the status of a Shemer Sachar. So keep pligi ba'eintzin the shoyl. So what is the argument over here between Rabbi Akiva and Rav Tarfon? They're arguing whether you're going to be responsible as a shoyl. So ma'ila fichach to Rabbi Akiva. What is Rabbi Akiva adding after he says that you're not allowed to use this money? Why does Rabbi Akiva have to add another line that you won't be responsible? All the Mishnah would have to say is Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva said, don't use this money. And I would know on my own, because he can't use the money, so he's not borrowing the money, he's not using it. You're not going to be responsible for an einis. Why would anybody think that you should be responsible for an einus if you can't use the money? It doesn't have to add that other line that you're not going to be responsible for this. Why is Rabbi Akiva adding this line saying lefichach, that you're not going to be responsible? That's the question on this pshat. So the Gemara answers, Mishom lefichach de Rab Tarfon. You're right, for Rabbi Akiva, when he said that you can't use it, and therefore you're going to be pati, you're not responsible, there's no reason for him to add that. It's self-understood that you're not going to be chayav for the yainus. The main chiddush though was the lefichach of Rab Tarfon. When Rab Tarfon says that you could use it, and therefore you are going to be responsible for this. What is Rab Tarfon coming to say? What's Rab Tarfon coming to say when he says that you can use it and you're going to be responsible, which means you're going to be responsible for an einus? What Rab Tarfon was saying is as follows. Kivin, the Shorule Rabbana Lishtamushibe Gavayu. Once the Chachamim allowed this Shemer Aveda to use this money, command the Ishtamish Begavayu Dami, it's his to use. Chachamim said that he has this money and it's his to be able to use, and therefore, even before he actually used it, it's as if he's using it. His level of responsibility is going to be as a person that's a shoyl, that has the money available for him to use, and is responsible even for an einus. That was the chiddush of Rab Tarfon, that he says that it's allowed for him to use it, even before he uses it, is going to be chayav an einus. So that was the chiddush. According to Rab Tarfon, it has to say this lefichach. But the truth is, according to Rab Akiva, it used the expression similar to Rab Tarfon, but it didn't have to say the lefichach, that is going to be potter on an einus, because it's self-understood. If you can't use it, then there should be no reason you should be chayav for an einus. But the Gemara asks on this pshat, so what did we say? That according to Rav Yosef, according to Rabbi Akiva, it's just agav, because it said it by Rab Tarfon, it says it by Rabbi Akiva, but it's not. There's no chiddush. It says it by Rab Tarfon. Once it says it by Rab Tarfon, it says it by Rabbi Akiva as well. But by Rabbi Akiva, there's no chiddush in it. But the Gemara asks on this pshat, what did we say here? That the whole Mishnah is speaking about whether you chayiv in an einus or not. Regarding Gneva and Aveda, we could learn like Rav Yosef, you chayiv. A Shemer Aveda is chayiv and a Gneva and Aveda even if you don't use it. The Mishnah is discussing whether you'd be chayiv in an einus because you're allowed to use it or not. But the question on this pshat is, V'ha'avdu katani. The expression that the Mishnah uses is, Lefichachim avdu. If it got lost, lost is usually not an expression that's used for an einus. A lost is something which is not an absolute pshiyah, but it's Aveda. Aveda is not einus. And says the Gemara, Kederabba. The expression of Avdu in the Mishnah, we can explain here, is similar to something that Rabbi says in a different place regarding the expression of Geneva. Geneva is also usually not an einus, but sometimes the term Geneva does mean an einus. The Amar Rabbi says, Nignevu. The expression of Nignevu could mean Belista Mezuyin. It means that it was an armed robbery, which is a einus. So to here, when our Mishnah said Avdu, it means Shetavas Finasei Biyam. It's not just a simple Aveda where a person put something somewhere and it wasn't in a very safe place and therefore got lost, but it means that it was sunk in a boat, and that's something which is totally out of his control. So the Mishnah was referring to this kind of Aveda, an einus.
The person has an Aveda wherever he goes, he has to take the Aveda with him?
No, lavdafka. But if he was traveling somewhere and he has no breda, he's going in a boat because he's moving or whatever. Sometimes he has no breda. He has to take it with him on a boat. It's not considered to be his fault in any way. It's complete einus when he had it with him on the boat and it drowned. Amar Rav Yehuda Mashmol said regarding the machlekes in the Mishnah, halacha, Rab Tarfon, we paskin like Rab Tarfon, a shemer aveda that is keeping money for the owner that lost it. While he has it in his possession, he's allowed to use it and spend it. But then he's going to have to pay it back, obviously, when the owner identifies that it's his, and he'll be responsible even for any einus, according to Rav Yosef's pshat. So the Gemara says a story that happened. Biyad Rachva, Havale Hanazuzi de Yasmi. Rachva had in his possession this money that he was keeping as a pekadon for Yisayimim. Also, Rav Yosef, he came to ask Rav Yosef about this money. Amalei says to Rav Yosef, while I'm keeping it for these Yisayimim, am I allowed to spend it and use it, and then when the time comes, I'll return it to them? Amalei. So Rav Yosef answered, we pass like Rab Tarfon. So just like Rab Tarfon says regarding keeping money of an Aveda, that while you're keeping it, you can spend it and then you return it. So regarding a pekadon of Yisayimim, you could also spend it and then you'll return it to them. Amalei Abaye. So Abaye says to Rav Yosef, how are you passing it this way? Didn't we learn about what Rav Tarfon said in our Mishnah? Omer Rav Chelboi, Omer Rav Huna. Rav Chelboi explained the name of Rav Huna. You're a shemer aveda. Why should you be allowed to spend this money while you're just supposed to just be guarding it and give it back to the owner? So Rav Huna explained that lo yishanu ela b'dmei aveda. This whole thing that Chachamim allow you to use this money for the aveda while you're keeping it for the owner is only by money of an aveda. And the reason is, since you went out of your way to take this aveda, to take care of it, it was an animal, let's say, that you found and you sold it, and now you have this money available for the owner. So here you were matriach, so they allowed you to go and use the money while you're keeping it for the owner. But if it's money of an aveda that you did not have any tircha, you didn't find an animal and then sell it, and then you found money. You just found money in a wallet. That kind of money, loy. If you have it in your possession as an aveda, you're not allowed to spend it. You just have to keep it for its owner. So that's what he made this distinction upon it, even just regarding money of an aveda. Now, v'hani, this money that the Rochbe had from the Yisaimim, that he has as a pekada in kamayas aveda damu, they're like money of an aveda that you found that you weren't matriach at all. It's just a pekadon that you have in your possession, you're keeping for the Yisaimim, so there's no reason you should be allowed to spend it while you're keeping it for them. Amalei, Rav Yosef said to Rachba, Zil, you can go, they're not allowing me to give you a heter to use this money of a pekadon that you have in your possession. A person found Sfarim, and Rashi says the kind of Sfarim they had in those days are like rolled up like a Torah, like a scroll. Not like a Megillah, like a scroll, not the Sfarim that we have the way it's printed today. So you find Sfarim Kaira ben Echad l'Shloshim Yom. You should open it up and read in it once in 30 days. It's a benefit for the Sfarim that it shouldn't get moldy by just keeping it closed up all the time. So once in 30 days you open it up. The many yedei likrais, if you don't know how to read, just gailulon. So just you roll it, you open it up and go and roll it, so it should be aired out. But you shouldn't open it up to learn something in it that you never learned before, because then you're going to learn and be ma'ayin over there for a while, and you may come to damage it, to ruin it, the quality of it. And also, if you're reading from it, but don't have a second person read from it with you together, because then two people are reading from the same scroll at the same time. One pulls one direction, one pulls the other direction. It could ruin it. Similar halacha, matzak, a person finds a garment, you should air it out once in 30 days, that it shouldn't get moldy, shouldn't get ruined. You spread it out for the sake of the garment, that it shouldn't get ruined, but you can't use it to spread it out, to hang it for your own honor, for your own sake. Similar, you found a silverware or a kalim, copper, you use it once in a while, but it's for the sake of the silver and the copper itself, that it shouldn't get tarnished, it shouldn't get ruined, so you use it, that it should be staying in good shape, in good quality. But not, you don't use it to the point that it's going to get rubbed out, ruined out, if you use it too much. Klizav or kliz chuchis, however, when it comes to golden kalim or glass kalim, la yigeben. If you have this as an aveda and the owner is not identified, don't touch it. Until the Navi will tell you who to return it to. Because these things, when you ruin it, they're very, very delicate. Sorry, when you use it, that is, it's very delicate. It can get broken or it can get destroyed. Matzah sack kupa. A person finds a sack, cloth, or a big sack, or a kupa, or a box, or any kind of thing which is not on your level of for you to go and schlep this and take this. This is a person that we're talking here about, a prominent individual. We'll see in the Gemara, this is the halacha of a zakin she'ein lefi chvayde. A person that's on a level that it's not for his dignity to go and schlep this big aveda. So then, hareze lo yitol. You don't have the mitzvah of a shavas aveda, because it's not for your covet. You can keep it where it is, and this is learned from a pasuk. This is not stam something because it's not your covet. You don't have the mitzvah. It's learned from a pasuk v'hisalamto, that sometimes something which is not for your covet, you don't have to go and schlep this big aveda. Sagt the Gemara, Shmuel said, halacha meitzet tefillin b'shuk. You find tefillin in the street, so sham demeyen, you evaluate its money, and then you give up the tefillin itself. You don't have to hold on to the tefillin for the owner. Or manichan la'alter, then you keep just the money for the owner, but you don't have to hold on to the tefillin itself for the owner. So Masav Ravina asks on this, why are we saying this regarding tefillin? The Mishnah spoke about Sfarim, and what did it say? Matzah Sfarim. If you find Sfarim, so you have to hold on to the Sfarim, and you even have to take care of it. And once in 30 days, you have to air it out. If you can't read from it, you have to roll it. Not goylelon in. You see here, you have to keep it and roll it. But but just to evaluate its money and then to put it aside and just keep the money instead, that you can't do. Abaye says tefillin is different because tefillin by bar chavu in that time was the sefer that everyone bought that tefillin by him. So the sefer bar chavu, he had many mishkach shchichi. He has a lot of tefillin available to sell to you. So this person that lost his tefillin and you're putting his tefillin aside and instead you're going to give him back money. So he'll be able to use that money to buy himself another pair of tefillin. Sfarim, however, lo shchichi. You find a scroll that in those times, very uncommon to be able to, it's all handwritten. To have this Sfarim available, if you found someone's sefer, don't put it aside or sell it and then just give him back the money. It's going to be very hard for him to retrieve and get back another sefer in its place. Tana Rabbanan and Abraisa, we learned more details here about the halacha of the Sefer Torah that you find. Hashayel Sefer Torah. So the Braisa speaks first about someone that borrows a Sefer Torah mechavere from his friend. So here there's a similar halacha regarding it's not like an aveda, similar when you borrow. Hareze lo yeshen l'lacher. So this that you borrowed, you're not allowed to borrow it then or lend it out to someone else. You only can use it yourself. You borrowed it to use for yourself. You open it and you read from it for yourself. But you can't use it even when you borrow it in such a way that you're going to end up ruining it. So you can't use it to learn from it something that you're learning for the first time. And don't have a second person read together with you, like we explained before in the Mishnah, because the two people pull in different directions and you could ruin it. You give your friend a Sefer Torah to hold on to for you. You should roll it and open it up once in 12 months. He opens it up and reads in it. But if he's opening it up for himself, for his own sake, not for the sake of the Sefer Torah, then it's not allowed. The Gemara is soon going to explain exactly what this means. And here we see another opinion in this Braisa regarding how often the Sefer Torah has to be aired out. Here it says 12 months. In the Mishnah it said once in 30 days. So the Braisa here brings another opinion. Sumcha says, B'chodosh, if it's a new Sefer Torah, then shloshim yom. Once in 30 days you should open it up and air it out. V'yashan, if it's older, shnei masachaydish. Then once in 12 months is good enough to open it up and air it out. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, another opinion, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, echad zeh, whether it's new or old Sefer Torah, shnei masachaydish, it's enough once in 12 months to open it up and air it out. Okay, so now the Gemara goes through the details of what it said here in this Braisa. Amamar, the Tana, the Braisa said, Hashayel Sefer Torah mechavedoim, you borrow Sefer Torah from your friend, hareze lo yashilenu lacher. You're not allowed to then lend it out to someone else to use it. So the Gemara asks, my area Sefer Torah. Why is it saying here in the Braisa this halacha specifically regarding a Sefer Torah? Seems like it's saying regarding a Sefer Torah, don't lend it out to someone else. But why dafka Sefer Torah? Full kala milionami. This is the halacha anytime you borrow any object that you're not allowed to then lend it out to someone else. Rab Shimon ben Lakish said regarding a Mishnah in Masechta Gittin, Kan Shona Rabbi. Here in this Mishnah in Gittin, Rabbi taught, Ein Hashoyel Rashoyel Hashel. You borrow an object, you're not allowed to then lend it out to someone else. The Mishnah in Gittin there discusses a case of a shliach that's delivering a get. If a person says to this shliach, when you deliver the get to my wife, take from her a certain item that she borrowed from me and then give her the get. In such a case, this shliach can't appoint another shliach in his place to deliver the get. Usually one shliach could appoint another shliach, but not in a case where the husband specifically said, I want you now to take this item from my wife, because in such a case where there's an item that she borrowed, it can't be given to someone else. You have to be the one to pick it up for the husband. So Shimon ben Lakish said on that from here we see, when someone borrows something, you can't give it to anyone else. It's just for you to hold and to use. And also, same thing, a person that rents is not allowed to then rent it to someone else. So why does this price here have to say this halacha seemingly saying it only specifically regarding a Sefer Torah? Answers the Gemara, Sefer Torah, etzur. True, this halacha applies regarding anything you borrow, but the Braisa here is saying that there's a chiddush regarding a Sefer Torah. Why would I think Sefer Torah is different? I would think to say that we have a concept that's brought in other places that a person is more than happy that a mitzvah should be done with his money, with his possession. So maybe here I would say the same thing, that a person is more than happy that if you're borrowing a Sefer Torah, that someone else should be allowed to use a Sefer Torah. Kamash Malan. So therefore, the Mishnah is saying, the Braisa is saying that no, that regarding a Sefer Torah, we say that the person does not want you to have anyone else use it because it can get ruined. But this concept of Nichlel Inish, that a mitzvah should be done with his possession, is actually brought in Shulchan Aruch. It does apply regarding other cases. One of the famous halachas of Shulchan Aruch is regarding a talis, that if there's a talis and the owner is not giving you the permission to use it, but we know that Nichlel, he wants you to do the mitzvah with it, and you can use it, and you can do a mitzvah with it. Okay, and then what it say in the Braisa, Paischai v'Kairebai, that you borrowed it, you can open it and read from it. So the Gemara asks on this Pshita, it says you're borrowing it, and it tells you that you can open it and read from it. For what other reason did he borrow it from him? Just to keep it in the closet? Of course he borrowed it to learn from it. So why is it saying that you can open it and learn from it? And says the Gemara, you're right, that's not the Chiddush. The main thing is the Chiddush that it says afterwards. That when you learn, it shouldn't be something that you're learning for the first time, that you're going to spend time on that page and you're going to ruin it. So that's the main point there. And then it said in the Braisa, what? The what? Why you borrowed it? No, you only borrowed it to use it for something that you already learned before, to do chazara, whatever it is. But not something that he's learning for the first time, because that's something that is going to get ruined. A person that is keeping a Sefer Torah for his friend. He should open it and air it out once in 12 months. And he opens it up and he reads from it. Okay, so the Gemara asks on this, it says over here, that he opens it up and he reads from it. What's it doing by him? Why is he opening it up and reading from it? Here we're talking about a pekadon. A pekadon is something that you're just holding it for the other person. You're not supposed to be using it at all. Why is it saying that you open it up and read from it? And then what did it say afterwards in the Braisa regarding the Sefer Torah, which is a pekadon? If he's opening it for himself, then it's not allowed. But what does that mean? Why is it not allowed? Right before this he said, that he's allowed to open it and read from it. So how do we understand what the Braisa is saying? At first it says he can open it and read from it. Then it's saying that you're not allowed to open to read from it. So the Gemara explains the simple pshat of the Braisa is as follows. What the Braisa is saying is like this. You're doing it for the sake of the Sefer Torah, to air it out. And when you're airing out the Sefer Torah, you're rolling it, you open up and you read from it, so then it's allowed. But if the Sefer Torah does not have to be aired out, you just take it out to open it and to read it for yourself while you're holding it for a pekadon for your friend, that's not allowed. The next thing it said in the Braisa was another opinion. Sumcha says, B'chadash, that is, a new Sefer Torah shleishim yom. It has to be aired out once in 30 days. B'yashan, shnei mas chaydish, an old Sefer Torah is once in 12 months. And then the third opinion in the Braisa is Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov vayme echad zeh ve'echad zeh shnei mas chaydish. Whether new or old Sefer Torah, it has to be aired out once in 12 months. So the question is, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, haynu Tanakama. What Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov seems to be saying is the opinion of the Tanakama. The Tanakama said a Sefer Torah has to be aired out once in 12 months. And the Tanakama didn't make any distinction between a new and old Sefer Torah. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov seems to be saying the same thing, that a new or old Sefer Torah once in 12 months. What's the difference? So what it says, Elo Emes. So we have to change the version of the Braisa. You must say Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov vaymer. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov taught echad zeh ve'echad zeh shloshim yom, that a Sefer Torah has to be aired out, whether it's new or old, once in 30 days. And this is what it said in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said once in 30 days as well. Then it said Avol. This is going back to what it said in our Mishnah. You shouldn't learn in it for the first time. And when you're opening up and you're reading from this Sefer Torah that you have as an Aveda, don't read it together with another person, which could pull it in another direction and it could ruin it. The Gemara asks a contradiction from what it says in the Braisa. Don't read from it in the Parsha and then read it again. And don't read in it a Parsha and then you translate, so you're spending more time. Don't open up more than 3 daf and 3 pages in it, or 3 different sections in it. And 3 people shouldn't read together in the same place, in the same time when they're reading there. So the Gemara's question is, and the last thing it says there in the Braisa is, 3 people shouldn't read from the Sefer Torah together. Hashnayim kaiden, but what you see is 3 together reading is a concern that it can ruin the quality of the Sefer Torah. But 2 is not a problem. In our Mishnah it said to 2 reading together is a problem. Amar Abaye answers, Lo kashi, it's not a contradiction. Kan be'inyan echad. If they're both reading from the same parsha, so then 2 people reading in the same parsha, one is pulling it in his direction because he can't see, the other is pulling in the other direction, that's a problem. That's what our Mishnah was speaking about. Kan b'shnei inyanim. Over here in the Braisa, it's speaking about 2 people, one is reading in one daf and the other is reading in another daf. So then in such a case, there's no concern that one is going to pull from the other. But then there'll be a concern only if there's 3 people. The next thing it said in our Mishnah was Matzak Sus. You found a garment, Menara Echad L'Shleishim Yom. You have to ear it out once in 30 days. So the Gemara says, shall we say, that we see from our Mishnah, the Neir, Mailila, that when you ear out a garment, that it's beneficial for this garment. But for Rabbi Yechanan said, if you have a weaver that's a craftsman in your house, in other words, you have someone available to make you new clothing, you should ear out your clothing every day. What he was saying is, you're going to ear out your clothing, you're going to ruin it. It's going to stretch out, it's going to destroy the garment. If you have a weaver available for you, go ahead, do it. You'll have someone to make you new clothing, but otherwise it's not good for the garment. So how does our Mishnah say that it's beneficial for the garment to ear it out? So Amri, the Gemara gives a few answers. One answer they said is, B'chol yoim kashila. In the statement that Rabbi Yechanan is saying, don't ear out your garment every day. That's not good for it. It's going to stretch it out. But once in 30 days, that's actually beneficial for the garment. Or another pshat, it's not a question. If it's one person that's airing out the garment, that's good for it. But if it's 2 people that are airing out the garment, one holds it from one side, the other holds it from another side, each one's pulling in their direction, it could stretch it out. Third pshat, it's not a question. You're just airing it out by hand, shaking it out in the air, so on. That's okay. But if you're banging it with a club or whatever it is, so then it's going to ruin it, it's going to stretch it out. Another pshat, it's not a contradiction. According to Rashi, the pshat here is that if it's a woolen garment, so then it's not good for the garment, it gets stretched out if you ear it out. And kisna, if it's made from flax, then it is good for the garment to ear it out. That's Rashi's version over here. How we the last pshat, the last answer, but other Rishonim say that it's the opposite. That when it comes to the woolen garment, then it's actually beneficial for it to air it out, and with the kisna, with the flax, it's not good for it. Now the Gemara mentioned before a statement from Rabbi Yechanan regarding behavior. This is what the Gemara Rashi calls this derech eretz, things how a person should behave, that don't air out your garment too much, it's going to destroy it. So the Gemara brings other things over here that Rabbi Yechanan said regarding what a person in his behavior, what's derech eretz, what's the good things a person should or shouldn't do. So Rabbi Yechanan said, Kasa de charoshin v'loy kasa de paishin. You should rather drink a cup that comes from a person that does kishiv, sorcery, and don't drink from a cup that's lukewarm, that wasn't properly boiled, because it could be very dangerous. It's not healthy. This is only said if you're drinking this lukewarm water in a metal cup. If you're drinking it from an earthenware cup, less lamba, then there's no issue. And also, you're drinking this lukewarm water in a metal cup, and it's only an issue if it wasn't first heated up properly, it didn't come to a boil. If it was already boiled, the water, and now it's lukewarm, it doesn't matter. Another thing, and it's only an issue, if you didn't put in any herbs or anything in it, or maybe like put in a tea bag in it or something. But if you put in herbs in it, and even into this lukewarm water, then it's not a problem, you can drink it. Another thing Rabbi Yechanan said, a person that his father left him a big Yerusha, he left him a lot of money. You want to get your money all destroyed? You want to make sure that you lose all this money? In other words, he's going to tell you how to lose your money. He's really trying to tell you what you should not do, not to lose your money. Yilbash bigdei pishtan. You should wear flax garments. which is garments that are delicate and get destroyed quickly. V'yishtamish b'klis chochis, and you should use only glass dishes, which break quickly. V'yiskar payalim, and hire workers, v'al yeshiv yiman. And the workers you hire, don't sit with them, don't pay attention to what they're doing, and then they're going to ruin your property and the work that they do. The Gemara spells this out. Yilbash b'kli pishton, it says that you wear these flax garments and they're delicate. This is b'kitna rumisa. This is the flax that comes from Rome, which is very delicate and gets destroyed. When it says you're using glass kalim that will make you lose all your money, it's talking about white glass, which is expensive and gets ruined. And the yiskar payalim, you hire workers, and you don't sit with them to see that they're doing their job right. So Tergemer, they explain what this means is, what he was referring to is a person that hires workers to work with the oxen in the field, in the vineyards. If they're not going to do that work properly, instead of going in the proper row and in between the vineyards and doing the work properly, instead they can go with these oxen on top of the vines and destroy everything. Not only you're not going to have the benefit of the work that it's supposed to be done, adarab, you're going to have a hefsed gadol, you're going to have a big loss from the work that they're doing. So this is what a person should be careful with in his behavior with the money that he has.